Tony, how have you seen Chase handle all of the preceding talk about him individually?
Yeah, Dolander.
Yeah,
He
I should specify.
he's kind of progressed ever since he's been on campus in every category you can come up with. But the one that's most noticeable is just what you would throw under the category of presence. I mean, how he handles himself around the team, becoming a leader, becoming a guy that probably needed to be corrected in some areas when he first got here, and that's really just getting used to the program. To now he corrects other guys in a positive fashion, and then handle himself on the mound the way he does. So whether it's hype or that kind of talk or being nervous about the season starting, and I'm now talking about every player on our team, you're not natural if you don't think those things. So if he were ever to come to me and say, man, I want to do just as well as I did last year, or any of the other guys saying I want to achieve this, or I'm stressed out about a pro career, it's normal. But I think the key is to embrace it and also kind of set it aside, because once the game starts, it technically doesn't have anything to do with our team trying to beat the other team. So, but he's been good.
Is the catching plan finalized for this weekend?
Not really, and part of what interfered with that was this last weekend was our final go around with scrimmages and things like that, and Cal Stark was sick, 103 degree fever, so we told him to stay away for a couple days, and he came back and caught 9 innings and looked good. But I think the bottom line is we want to use Charlie and Cal to complement one another. We like the fact that Ryan Miller, who's a big bat, is available, kind of more of an offensive first guy, but he's come along defensively. And then we know Jared can play that position too. I mean, he's cemented himself, in my non-expert opinion, but I think the other coaches too that know catching even better than I, that he's a true high-level SEC, whatever you want to call it, catcher. So we do kind of have that wild card in our back pocket.
How have you seen this team kind of hone in its approach and mentality as the season's gotten so close?
I think it's just been a parallel to how they've gotten closer as a team, and we finally have had a couple guys arguing with each other on the field, which is healthy. Anytime you got in my case, brother-sister relationship, when your family spend time around one another, you're going to have conflict, you're going to have resolution, you're also going to have some fun times that aren't just, hey, the coaches, we're going to play spike ball today or whatever and have fun. It's things that have kind of come organically out of that locker room in the weight room, and it's starting to feel more like a team, even more so than it did in Jackson, Tennessee. And then if you date back to September and even prior to that, when we first played Wake Forest, it didn't seem like a team at all. So that progression, I think, is at a certain point, but by no means is it kind of, where it needs to be at the end, where it's going, and not what it was like with a couple of the other teams we had, where just everyone had been around the program and each other for so long. So this has a fresh flavor to it, which therein lies means it's a new one. And I think there's days ahead where we're going to notice more progress and feel good about it.
You have a pretty good feel for how you want to stack kind of the top of the lineup early in the season, especially just with returners and some of those new guys?
Not really. I think Christian Moore is a guy who will compete at the plate every pitch. And like every hitter, things will go good and bad, but he's going to get on base a lot. You'd like guys to be on base. And he's strong enough to drive the ball, too. Anybody can see that. And then Blake Burke is just really gifted, and like Jordan Beck, is obsessed with hitting. It's not like he ignores the other parts of his game, but it's a nice combination of work ethic and talent, which you love to see. Is kind of like what Coach Elander had, when he was back as a player. So he's going to be in the thick of the thing, and then we'll probably end up moving some guys around. I know the first 3 days there's a great chance we'll have 3 different lineups. So last year I said there's going to be some experimentation, and we really only had the 2-hole and the 6-hole kind of rotated a little bit. But this year I think that'll hold true, that there'll be some more experimentation with those guys.
How has Charlie developed through this offseason, kind of going to be like your 1-2 in that starting position?
Just every day you get the same thing. So as a person, he's the exact same guy he was when he walked through our door. And even when we recruited him, he's so businesslike, such a good kid, loved by his teammates. Just when you think he's kind of too much business, he'll throw out a dry sense of humor joke on you. So it's been what you kind of preach as a coach in any sport, just inch along a little bit. Like, you don't have to conquer the world between March and April, but just inch along a little bit. And so if you were to ask about a specific category, whether it be throwing, I just think he's kind of inched along. Now, the biggest jump he's made is what he understands comes with that duty of being behind the plate. you got to kind of be the point guard. And it doesn't mean you got to grab somebody by the jersey or yell at a pitcher or anything like that, but you got to have rapport with the umpires, rapport with the pitching coach, with the pitcher, and then you also got to kind of guide the team because you have the whole field in front of you. And I think he's stepping out of his comfort zone and realizing, pretty good player, you also have good leadership skills. Whether you like it or not, you're going to need to be both. So he's diving into that a little bit more, I'd say.
What are some of the things you're going to be looking for out of the new faces this weekend?
Help us win. To not freak out. I mean, come on. There's serious stuff without, beating everybody down here or myself and getting pressure. There's a lot of serious stuff going on college campuses included. So you've been doing all this stuff in the weight room and all those things, hopefully because you like doing them, but also you've been doing them with the thought process of the light at the end of the tunnel is an opportunity to compete against a worthy opponent and see what I can and can't do. And then the game will kind of tell you where you're at. You're not going to be able to fool anybody, so to go out there and try and be Superman doesn't make sense. What makes even worse sense is what I did, put all kinds of work in, and then you go out there and you doubt yourself or you overcomplicate things, and now the real version of you didn't even appear. So how do the coaches or you and your parents at dinner, how do you even grade that out? So it's overly simple, but to go out and just play ball, and then we'll kind of figure out where we're at. And if we got some problems, whether it be a specific individual or as a team, that's a good thing. Then we got stuff to work on in practice.
With Jared, are you working him in corner outfield spot, center field, kind of where in the outfield?
Yeah, all three. I mean, he could move around at first base now with how athletic he's become. I tease him when he first got here. We threw him over there because he was a hitter, and he stunk at first. So I bet if we gave him that opportunity, he's much better. But he's still caught bullpens. You guys have come out to the scrimmages. Hasn't been back there lately, and that's more just to get used to being at all three spots. Because I think the majority of where this lineup experimentation will take place is with the DH in the outfield spot. I mean, it's going to be one and the same. Our DH is almost always going to be sizing up our personnel, almost always going to be an outfielder. And then, don't hold me to this too much, but I bet you we got 3 different outfields in 3 days out there in Arizona.
What do these teams do well that you're going to be playing on this weekend, Arizona and Grand Canyon?
Well, I know Arizona's probably been looking forward to this game. I assume our guys have too. I mean, we haven't built things up too much, but you love when an SEC opponent comes to your place. I mean, they're playing in a conference that's comparable to ours anyway, and it's a program with a ton of history. So it's not like they don't have a lot to stick their chest out about. But when you get an opportunity to beat an SEC team, I'd like to think you get kind of geeked up. And then, this team's going to have a different personality, but when you got whatever the theories were that were thrown out about our team last year, people are probably going to be excited to beat us and say, stick their nose up at us or whatever emoji you want to use, at the start of the year anyway. So I think all that's going to be a part of the storyline. But really, I think what it's going to be is we're kind of going down there towards their home turf, not on their home field. And everyone's going to be excited across the country to start opening day. You got a fresh, clean start. So it's going to be all the excitement you can imagine. And let's see what we're all about. And no better way to do it than to challenge yourself against an Omaha caliber club in Arizona. And then for us, obviously, we've done some good things lately, so that'll come with that. Now, Grand Canyon is a program that what they do well is they win a lot of games without everybody in the country knowing it. Because it's not a huge school, by now you've seen YouTube basketball videos. It's a really cool campus. It's completely transformed into the university it is if you know the history of the school. And then the baseball program's always been good. But probably because the stadium's become really good, campus, the baseball program's gotten even better. They got a shortstop that could be a first rounder and a couple other highly touted guys. And then we'll worry about day 3 when we get. That's already a lot of thoughts, but day 3 for me will be cool because I'll coach against, on the other coaching staff will be a player that I coached at University of Missouri, and I love that kid. So we'll have to be enemies for a day and then hug it out afterwards.
What do you see from Seth Halverson now that he's entering the season fully open?
He's in there now. He's so physical compared to when he got here. And part of that is you get extra time in the weight room because he had taken some time off from throwing. But I sensed a little bit, almost like 2 boxers in there feeling each other out. When he first got on the mound, it was kind of feeling it out a little bit, and now you're starting to see him cut some pitches loose, get more comfortable, and with repetitions in a game, I think that's going to happen even more. But you also get the sense when he's out there, like, I've been here before. He's been a Friday night starter for a team, and so he's got more experience than the average guy, whether it be on our team or anyone else's. So, but that stuff is going to keep inching along, and so is that comfortability. And so he's one of those guys that I think will naturally progress, and in May, you all will look back just with the fan's eye or critic's eye and say, this guy looks even better than he did at the start of the season.
How do you approach the pitching this weekend? Did you piggyback guys on innings, pitch counts, or how do you kind of look at the starting situation?
Yeah, for us, it'll be, limit the starter. Last year we had a couple guys that had really good outings in the first few weekends, and we're in the dugout, like, what do we do? And it's better to get these guys to where there's a progression as opposed to trying to slam them or just soak as many innings out of them as you can. So we'll get our guys to their pitch limit, which will be pretty conservative, and that'll open up an opportunity. It's the way I've always liked to do it. I mean, it helps in recruiting. People see that we use a lot of pitchers, and we don't want to leave any stone unturned going into SEC play. At least we know what this guy looks like against outside competition. Redmond Walsh is a great example. If you watched him in scrimmages, he was right middle of the road of our pitchers. But when we gave him an ample opportunity against outside competition, for whatever reason, and I would love for Redmond to give me that secret sauce so we could pour it over some other guys, he was pretty dang good on game day. So we'll give guys opportunities, and they'll make the most of them, and then we'll kind of see where everyone's at. And like I said, if you do give them this proper sample size, no one's going to trick the game or the coaching staff or the opponent. We'll be able to size up where everyone's at and make more educated decisions as we get closer to SEC play.
Two more questions.
What's the biggest way this offseason and preseason has felt different from last year?
Oh, in the fall was really challenging because we had some young guys that were sore on the mound. Had that too every fall. But we really wanted to see what these guys could do because there are so many new faces. And then we had a lot of illness. I mean, for whatever reason, flu and other bugs ran rampant through our campus, and I know others too. So it was tough to get some momentum. And then since we've come back, I think the one thing that sticks out about this group is they picked up on the theme of you got to do your work in the offseason. They came back looking good. And I think they're more ambitious to be who they are as a team. Last year, believe it or not, there was a lot of uneasiness of who are we, what can we and not do, and probably a little bit of that anxiety in a positive way kind of pushed like, hey, we can't get complacent. We got a lot of things we got to figure out. And with this team, it's been a little bit more of a push just towards coming together as a team. Let's get as much done as we can before we start the season, because once it starts, it's tough to make up too much ground in one area or another.
Have any of the left-handed bullpen arms separated themselves in the last 2 weeks?
Jacob Bimby was pretty good the last few times out. Last 4 times out in my mind, and we've tried to ramp up the kind of game-like scenarios where they got to come straight out of the pen and things like that. So he's certainly done well. Fitz probably would like to throw better than he did the last 2 times, but his stuff is so good, it's always there. It's about the piece being in play that we've talked about already. Just go play, play ball. Wyatt, we've kind of slowed him down a little bit, but of course, Wyatt will be in the mix, and then Kirby's Kirby. The stash is still there, and I'm sure he'll have a cowboy hat on the plane tomorrow, although I don't know what our dress code is tomorrow for the plane. But so there's opportunities out there, and I think Xander is the one guy that's been really fun to watch. I mean, he was highly recruited out of high school, but thin kid that had to grow into his body, and he's not a stuff guy where he's throwing 96 like Crochet. So it's been fun to see him develop as a pitcher, and I feel like we can use him in any situation, not just a Tuesday starter like he was last year.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.